Here's an example for correlation to decide whether something is significantly correlated or not. We have here the years an alumni has been out of school and their dollar contribution back to the college that they were at. And we're going to use alpha equals 0.05. We only have 6 data points. In real life, of course, you're going to want to do regression on a little bit more than 6 people here. But these are paired up, so that this is, for instance, one person's an alumni. They've been out of school for 1 year and they contributed $500. So it's important that you keep the pairs together as you're going through. We're going to be testing to see if there's a significant linear relationship. There's all sorts of types of relationship. Right now we're just going to talk about a straight line. We're going to set up our hypothesis statements that rho equals 0, and the alternative is that rho does not equal 0. And our claim is in the alternative hypothesis. If the correlation is not equal 0, that means it's going to be close to -1 or close to +1, meaning that there is a significant relationship between years and contribution amount. Plug in your values into list 1 and list 2 in your calculator. And I've done that already when you're going through. So I have in here, in my edit menu, I have put in my years into list 1 and my contribution values into list 2. Then we're going to go to the stat menu, over to tests, and then it's at the almost very bottom, and it's called linear regression t-test, linreg t-test for short, making sure not to use the t-interval. Make sure you do the t-test here. And we have our data in list 1 and 2. If you have a T89 calculator, you would want to actually spell out your whole list name, LIST1 and LIST2. Frequency should always be kept at a 1. And we're always doing a two-tailed test. So if you have another sign highlighted, go over to the two-tailed and hit enter so that it's now highlighted on the not equal. You can actually do a correlation test that rho is less than 0 and rho greater than 0. Our textbook decides not to do that case. Right now I'm going to leave the regression equation blank, but you can actually put this into a graph and graph your regression equation. But right now we're just trying to see if it's significant at all. I'm going to go down to calculate and hit enter. It gives us a bunch of things in here. And there are 2 different methods that you can use. You can use the t-test, or you can use the critical value for correlations. Either way we start out, we do need the correlation, and there's a lot of things in here that we'll use throughout this chapter, but if you arrow down a ways, you'll see right in here that the R, that's the sample correlation coefficient, is equal to -0.8829. So I'm going to want to write that piece down. Be careful with the negative and positive sign there. R can be any value between -1 and +1. If I'm just testing it against the critical value for correlation, and this is pretty easy if you have the program I installed on your calculator, and what we're going to do is have a number line between -1 and 1. There's no curve associated with it. It's just a number line with 0 here in the middle. And what it does is it actually gives you an area in the left and right. It says somewhere over here and somewhere over here. If our correlation is in that area, we can reject our null hypothesis. So what is that number here? And so this is the program called CVR, stands for critical value for R. Lowercase r was an option in the TI calculator, so it's a capital R. To get that critical value, you would start with your program key. If you're on the T89, this would be catalog. And then you're going to go into, let me pull out my T89 actually so I can show you. So on the T89, to get to that same menu, you would go into catalog and then go into F4, user defined, and you'll get the same menu options that I have in there. And then critical value R, again this is a program that doesn't come standard with your calculator, so you have to get the download from me or from the website. So we're going to have our critical value for R, hit enter again to start the program. If you're on a TI-89, you'll actually have an open parenthesis. You'll need to do a close parenthesis, then enter. Ask you for our sample size. There were 6 pairs of data, so we're going to put in 6. Alpha was 0.05. If it's not given to you, always default back on 0.05. Hit enter again. We are going to be doing the two-tailed test. So it gives us here 0.8114. So 0.8114 and negative 0.8114 are the critical values, and you're using your correlation as the test statistic. So if I look back at this R value, that are in the tail, so we would reject the null hypothesis. Now this is in a table. There is a table in the appendix in the back of your book that has different values for correlations. So